Hello.
Hey.
We are back.
Hey. How is everybody?
Lady
good.
very good. Today as Wonderbirds, we're all sort of different colours.
We are, aren't we?
And the
Like
darkness.
birds are, actually, aren't they?
Yeah.
Spring birds. Not quite spring yet. January is such a sort of a dowdy month, isn't it? So I thought I'd dress up in something bright. And as Nat had.
Gorgeous.
I like January. I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
No, I'm in mourning.
I like the cold, you see. I like cold weather.
Yeah.
I don't.
I come from the northeast, Pat. You have to like cold weather. And when you come from central.
Very true.
I'm a bit of an old lady. Thermals, pajamas, the lot.
God, your husband must be very delighted when you get into bed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter gives me every Christmas. They are the most beautiful. I think they're called his nibs, but they're all gorgeous with tigers and peacocks and gorgeous colours, and they are absolutely lovely. I love my pajamas.
I wear the onesie to wander around in, but I don't like sleeping in anything. And apparently that's very healthy.
Yeah. In Sweden, they say that, don't they? They say not to sleep in anything.
Well, obviously, that's why I have a Swedish son-in-law.
Yeah. And Marilyn Monroe, who said your feet are very young.
Yes, he did. The other day, for some reason, he was looking at my feet and he said, your feet are very young.
Your feet are very young, Debbie. They are
and your hands.
Yes, and your hands, because you don't do housework. But
I do walk, Natalie.
You do. And then we don't get to see your beautiful, perfect feet. But you do have very remarkably young feet.
Yes, you do.
Shame about the face, but the feet are all right.
No, lovely face.
My feet look a little bit like, what are those movies? Like hobbits, really. The hobbit feet I've got.
They're not hairy.
No, they're not hairy. Ginger hairy, but they're sort of just little hobbit feet.
Hairy. I've got to tell you, my daughter says I've got hobbit feet because they're square. They're square. There's no shape to them. They're like little. They are like little hobbit feet, actually.
Yes, I have square feet.
You will have to have a competition, Debbie. Who's got the most hobbit feet? Deal me.
Who's got the most hobbity feet? What about you?
Exactly.
What's your feet like, Paddy?
Square, small and square. Yeah, like yours, probably.
Yes, mine are lovely.
But yours are long and slim.
All right, perfect feet. Oh, for goodness!
Mine are not like that at all.
Very young, very young.
Well, she doesn't have any of those sort of things that grow on the side of your, bunions and all that. They're all sort of perfect.
Yeah.
Our guest, we have a very interesting guest, actually. The wonderful journalist who is Bryony Gordon. And I met her a couple of weeks ago when I was on GMB, and we had a debate where we were fighting against each other. But of course, we just fell in love instead. And I felt a very strong affinity towards her. And then I shall tell you when she comes on why this was. Hello, Bryony. You are live on Wonderbirds. Well, not live. I mean, sort of live-ish.
Thanks for having me, Wonderbirds.
We love
to have you.
Bryony, it's so funny when we met because I felt such an affinity towards you. And, we just sort of clicked. And then it was so weird because I've known you for years and I didn't realise it was you.
Well, I didn't realise either, but my mum was like, Debbie, and so it turns out we have known each other for years.
I met you when you were a small child, I think.
Well, I don't know if I was anyway, I'm not a small child anymore. I think my mum said, my mum was here at the weekend and she said that she's been on the Wonderbirds as well.
Yes.
Oh,
I love her.
We
love your mum. But I was thinking, Bryony, about your mum, and I was thinking about all the challenges that she did in her book. It's obviously in your genes.
Yeah, my mum's Jane Gordon, and she wrote a book about how to age well, how not to get old.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah, and my mum is like actually younger than me. It's funny because she is like obsessed with not aging. obsessed with it. And she, well, I remember when I got to 27, which was quite some time ago, she said to me, "You're going to have to start lying about your age because I cannot have a child over the age of 27." And I think it has now got to the stage where I'm like, I think I'm older than you, Mum.
You have achieved so much, darling. You are incredible. I mean, when you started talking about running, well, when did all this? So when did you become a journalist? Tell us when you left your mummy's clutches. What happened?
No, I've never left my mother's clutches. That's why I became a journalist, to impress her. So I'm 43 now. My mother will hate me saying that.
No, we'll say you're 14 now.
I'm 14, yeah. And I always really admired my mum and what she did, and it always looked like such fun. And newspapers were like, they were very much in our, you know, they were in the blood. And this was a time when you would come downstairs, and I don't know if we even remember this anymore, but when we used to like be like, "Oh, what's on the front pages?" And you'd sit down at breakfast, and you'd go through them, and on a Sunday you'd get really excited about what was on the front page of the News of the World.
Oh yeah.
I remember that. It was usually me sometimes, but anyway, go on.
What's Debbie been up to this week, we'd say. I loved the idea of, I just loved journalism. I loved newspapers. And so I kind of raided my mum's address book without her realizing when I was about 18. She was like, "What makes you think you're better than any other 18-year-old who wants to become a journalist?" And I was like, "Nothing, but it would be really stupid if I didn't use your contacts book." And I got some work experience, and I sort of did work experience. Obviously, I was very lucky, very privileged, and and then I ended up just sort of, not just sort of, I make it sound I went to the Telegraph as a writing about teenage stuff, did some shifts on the Express, and so now that was a long time ago. And then I got on the trainee scheme at the Telegraph, and I'm sort of still there 108 years later. No, I've been writing for the Telegraph for 24 years now, but obviously things have kind of gone off in different directions, so I've, in the last sort of 10 years, I suppose, I've gone into into mental health campaigning kind of accidentally through writing about my own experiences of mental illness, which is why I'm doing this crazy running challenge. And I created a podcast back in 2017, which was all about mental health. And my first guest was Prince Harry, because
darling, of course. Who else?
I don't know if you remember when before he spoke about it all the time, when he first spoke about his mental health stuff, that was on my podcast. So, but that was really unexpected as well, and it's all
when
kind of.
Was that before he got married? And
he'd only, I think he'd been with Meghan for about 6 months. I think she suggested to him that he do it. So I got basically, because I had started writing about my experiences of obsessive compulsive disorder and depression in the Telegraph, and the response I had was incredible. My husband jokes that he says, "I wish you had the good type of OCD." And case in point, I can't actually navigate. Can you see the mess there? there is no good type of OCD. So the way I describe it is, it's like your brain refuses to acknowledge what your eyes can see. So that your hands are clean, that the oven is off, that the bump in the road you've just gone over was a speed bump and not a child. It's all about kind of intrusive thoughts. So, and you have to go and check. So you have to go and keep going back and checking. And so I've had that type of OCD. The first time I experienced OCD was when I was about 11 or 12. And I woke up one morning and I was convinced that I was dying of AIDS. So I don't know if you remember, there was that terribly shaming public health campaign back in the late 80s and early 90s. And And I was just convinced that, and I couldn't go, it got to the point where I washed my hands so much that they started to bleed, and then I couldn't leave the house because I was too scared. And I would hide my toothbrush under my pillow because I didn't want to like infect my family. And it was so, looking back, obviously it was completely irrational, but it felt very, very real at the time. And I was too scared to say anything. I just was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And it was only later on. And then it was very strange because kind of as soon as it came on and was there for about 3 months very intensely, and then it kind of went away just as quickly. I think a lot of it was quite hormonal, kind of exacerbated hormones. And then when I was about 17, it came back. I was studying for my A-levels, and this time it started to tell me, now this is why, so there's a type of OCD, a subset of OCD known as puro, which is around thoughts. That we all have hundreds of thousands of thoughts every day. We are not all of our thoughts. And we've all had those sort of intrusive thoughts that are like, what if someone handed me a baby and I was to throw the baby on the floor? Or what if I was to jump off this, like when you're very tall, you're very high, somewhere high up. But most of us kind of dismiss those thoughts immediately and go, of course, I'm not going to do that. Someone with OCD gets very, very distressed by the thoughts, and they ruminate on them to check that they are not the thoughts. And so that was the kind of OCD that sort of characterized the next decades of my life. So I had a very little brother, and I was convinced that I might have hurt him or done something awful to him. So basically, my brain was like, maybe you're a serial killing paedophile, and you've blanked it out in horror.
Yes, yeah.
So unspeakable.
Wow.
And of course, people don't talk about this type of OCD. Later that I learned it's very, very common,
Definitely.
And what I've come to realize about all mental illness, is it's kind of like your brain's very clever way of trying to protect you from what's going on outside of you and make you, and it's a kind of a misfiring, of course, but it is actually, there is some sense to it. So for me, I've now realized OCD was something my brain sort of created to keep me safe. Not that I had I didn't have an unsafe childhood, so to speak, but I was very kind of sensitive, and and I was very scared of being bad or naughty, Some of us are born that way. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to, and it was like my brain made it. It was like, if you stick to these rules and you make sure, then it was like, you'll be good and you'll be okay and everyone will love you, Bryony, And of course, actually, it makes you feel as less safe, and it makes you feel bad, and it makes you feel shame. And as I got older, the only kind of coping mechanism I discovered was alcohol and drugs. So also, this is the thing about mental health issues, is they kind of tend to spiral off and get bigger, and so I classify myself as an alcoholic and an addict. I haven't had a drink or a drug for nearly 7 years now, but but it was when I started writing about that form of OCD, and it was like I kind of felt I had to. It was like a desperation. I kept hearing that there were other people out there who suffered from this thing that I suffered from, but I'd never met anyone who'd admitted to it, and it was like, if I write my column, I'll get the police come and take me away, and then at least we know, and at least it's done,
There's a shame, isn't there? It's almost like, because I remember when I was a kid, I think we've all got a certain amount of this going on, because we're in a creative environment, all of us, as kids, and also, as you said, very sensitive. And I was reading about this because of your book, Bryony, and I thought, oh my God, yes. The thing about contamination, I dreamt that all my family, and it sounds very funny now, actually, but it was horrific when I was about 8, had turned yellow. And when I woke up, I thought that everyone had this terrible disease where they turned yellow. And so I was, literally, I wouldn't go near to any of my family for ages. I mean, they probably despaired actually. And I thought it lasted probably weeks, I would think, if not months.
And what help is there out there, Bryony, when you are diagnosed?
Well, I mean, the truth is there's not that much, this mental health services. There are, listen, this is not the people who work in these services are not to blame at all. This is about funding. Yeah. They're not, it is funded properly. And so, but there is stuff available. And I think for me, a diagnosis was like, it was the moment of going, oh, I'm not bad, this is a brain response. But of course, even after a diagnosis, it can take years to get proper help. That sounds really bleak, but it's kind of why I do what I do, because I don't want my daughter to grow up in a world where she doesn't know how to get help if she has these issues. And it's not about wanting to wipe out these issues. It's about wanting to kind of create help, because our brains are magnificent, complex things that will always create stuff. But
yes,
as you just said, Dee, you were talking about how your family despaired, about you not wanting to come near to them. Now, actually, probably what would happen today, I don't know, when I was a kid, if someone was troubled, it was like it had come out of a clear blue sky, and, and these kids were a problem, it was like, and that obviously makes things worse. If a child thinks they're a problem, that's that's just going to continue on into their adult life. And I think what is different now is that we're all much more open to finding out, to not kind of seeing the child as just a diagnosis or just a problem, seeing that they have a problem and that they need help for it, rather than us despairing at them. Like, I've worked out that when I wake up in the morning, my starting point is just, oh my God, I'm in terror about everything I've got to do today. I've got to record a podcast, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And the quickest, I don't want to get it, it's instinctively my brain's just like, let's shut down, stay in bed or whatever. And for me, the quickest way to kind of hack that is to get up and do exercise. Today I had to run 12 miles and then went for a big old Sunday roast with my family, and then spent the whole afternoon under the quilt. Felt really great about it, actually. I was like, yeah. I think it's like, I don't know, it's just, I like to know that it's like, if nothing else gets achieved in the day, I'm like, oh, I've done that.
Do you think your choice of career made any difference? Because I mean, a lot of people say journalism is very stressful, it's, you've got terrible hours. Does that force you towards the wrong type of behaviors?
I don't know. I mean, it's really funny. I was talking about this actually with a friend of mine who's also in recovery from alcoholism, and we were talking about how we're all like, oh yeah, of course, in my industry. And then you say to someone, oh, what was your industry? And they'll be like, carpentry. And you're like, it's like, I don't know, like it's if you it's alcoholic's going to alcoholic whatever they're doing, I guess.
Stress is in every job.
As you said, I think, anyone who has any addiction or has OCD or any sort of mental health issue, I think they're ultra sensitive. I've always felt that,
It's a really good thing as well. Like, I think it's always, I remember when I was a kid, it always used to be like, don't take yourself so seriously. And it's like, actually, it's okay. Like, do take yourself seriously, it's, if that's, it's like, I think it's really important not to shame people for who they are,
Yeah, absolutely. Is there another book? Or...
There is, yes.
Oh,
thank
good.
you for asking that question.
Tell us.
I have a book out on February the 15th called Mad Woman, which the subtitle of which is How to Survive in a World That Thinks You're the Problem. So it's about sort of my experiences with OCD, binge eating disorder, but it's basically, I went through quite an early menopause, and it was really kind of like a shedding, amazing moment for me. It was hideous, and then it was incredible. It was like an awakening. And I wrote this book called Mad Girl about 10 years ago, which did very well, about OCD, and I wanted to kind of update it a bit, and actually it's about me realizing that most people, sometimes the people we think are mad are actually the most sane members of society. And as women as well, it's about how I'm surprised more of us don't end up absolutely losing our shit because the world is not set up for us, you know. So it's about sort of acknowledging that, and the sort of witchy magic of menopause and the witchy magic of being a woman, basically.
Quickly, we've got to talk about your boobs, because I was saying, how, because she's got the most wonderful boobs, how on
you
earth
have.
can you run with them? Because I can't run with mine, and they're half the size.
They're double J's.
Lovely thing.
But this is why, okay, I'm like a size 18. Look, I'm standing up, size 20. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to show women, especially, that exercise is for everyone, and the huge transformational properties it has for mental health. And I think so many women they want to get out and they want to feel good about themselves, but they're too scared to, and they're scared they're going to be laughed at, and they're scared that, you know, it's not for them and they can't. And I'm doing this to show that you can. You obviously don't have to run as far as I'm doing, but I want to kind of inspire and help women to know that they're amazing. You know, we talk about couch to 5K, but I want to create a program that helps the person that's scared to get off the couch. Like, how do we move? You know, it's almost like that intro thing that is, I don't know, I'm sort of like, I'm brainstorming it. But that's what I want to do, because it's
amazing.
We'll all come on the boot camp with you.
Yeah.
It won't be a boot camp, it'll be a boob camp, and we'll have
Yay!
We love you.
That.
Thank you, Bryony. Thank you so much
Bryony.
for coming on our show.
Thanks.
That was so inspiring. Thank you.
See you again soon.
See you again.
Bye, darling.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
That was incredible, incredibly inspiring. I have to say.
Very much so. How lovely. She's just amazing, isn't she?
Gorgeous.
God,
just like her mummy.
I wish I had somebody to talk to like that in my teens and 20s, because I was just a lost soul on the inside, just like that. All that OCD stuff. My God.
Yeah.
I didn't even think there was anything wrong. I didn't know.
No, me with plastic bags and knives. I always used to put the knives and hide them just in case in the middle of the night I get up and kill myself.
I lived in Malaysia, and one of the little girls that I played with, she put a little red seed from one of the trees in her nose, and she would swallow it, and it would come through her mouth. And I did this, it got stuck. And I was convinced when I was about 6 years old that this seed was going to go inside me, and there was going to be a tree, and it was going to grow out of me. And I had this obsession forever.
When Kira was about 5 or 6, Legend sort of tried to hump her, you know, and for years she thought she was going to have puppies.
Oh.
It's been what a fab show. What a great start to the year.
Oh, what a wonderful woman. What a wonderful woman she is.
Really.
We adore her. We love you, Bryony.
We do love you, Bryony. See you soon. See you next week.
Bye.